Hey, this is SXE Blues, and I'm bringing to you my part 4 of my Star Trek film retrospective, looking at my favorite moments from the 11 Star Trek films. This is going to be part 4, dealing with Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, and probably one of my favorites of the series. And I know, many people love it, so let's go ahead and, dive right in and take a look. Thanks for watching. The first scene I want to mention comes a little bit into the movie after we've had, it picks up pretty much a little bit after where 3 leaves off, and the Enterprise is gone, so the crew has a Klingon bird of prey that they end up usurping to get back home and face the music, so to speak, for having stolen the Enterprise in the previous film. And it's after the cetacean probe, which I always thought kind of looked like a toilet paper roll in space, comes, hovering over the Earth and starts seemingly sucking up the water and trying to communicate with some kind of life, and Spock deduces that it's whale song from ages ago and so forth, and they go through back into time and everything. And so this is when they are in the modern day, at the time, 86, I think, 1986. And it's pretty, the music picks up in a sort of poppy, kooky manner, and you see the crew, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, Scotty, Sulu, Chekhov, walking the streets of San Francisco in 1986, and being really, unnerved about the world they're in. And there's just this one line when Kirk and Spock realize they have to figure out how to get some money. They know they're going to need currency, and so they decide to go off and do something. And it's just as they're walking away, and the rest of the crew just kind of standing there in a little group, like huddled together. They don't really know what to do with themselves. And Kirk turns around and goes, "Come on, go get busy, do something. You look like a cadet review, And just the line delivery and the way they all sort of sheepishly start walking away, like they make like they're going to walk away, but they really have no idea what to do. And it's one of the first comedic moments of the film that stands out to me. It's kind of a smaller moment, and maybe not the one everyone else would pick, but as being the first most memorable. But it's one that I always chuckle at every time I watch it. The second scene is when you have Kirk and Spock. They've gotten the money they needed, and they figured out that they can go to a cetacean institute and find 2 whales, George and Gracie, respectively. And they're on the bus going over, I think, Golden Gate Bridge. And there's this punk sitting across from them with a boombox, blasting loud, obnoxious punk music. And, there's a little funny dialogue between Kirk and Spock about colorful metaphors, aka cursing. And Kirk finally has enough and asks the colorful gent sitting across from them to please turn the music down. And he flicks them off in response, and then turns the music up. And it's the infamous scene where Spock reaches over and gives him the nerve pinch. Guy passes out, and as his head smacks the boombox, the music goes off, and the entire bus erupts in applause. And it's just a funny scene, and the dialogue about the colorful metaphors and how profanity is, the rhyme of the time, so to speak. It's just a really funny little scene. And moving on to the third, after they've been at the Cetacean Institute and Spock went for an impromptu swim with the whales and mind melded with Gracie, the female of the pair, and is caught, essentially. And they're told to get out of Dodge because they've broken the rules. When they're walking back to, I don't know where they're walking, frankly, but they're debating about what can they do. And the scientist that works with the whales. I think the character's name is Jillian. Don't remember the actress's name. She goes on to be in Seventh Heaven, which ironically has the guy who played Will Decker in the first Trek movie playing her husband. Little bit of trivia for you there. But she pulls up in her pickup and says, "Let me give you a ride," hoping to probe them with questions to figure out what their thing is. What are they interested in the whales for? And it again, another really funny, charming scene is when Spock, just out of the blue, in the middle of the conversation, says, "Gracie's pregnant," and Jillian slams on the brakes, and she says, "I want to know how you know that." And there's a point where the conversation is going nowhere, and Kirk says, let's discuss this over dinner. And she says, "Do you guys like Italian?" And then Kirk and Spock can't answer the same way. Spock says no, Kirk says yes. Then they look at each other, and they're like, "Yes, no, no, yes." And then Kirk goes, "I love Italian." He looks at Spock and goes, "And so do you." And Spock looks at her and goes, "Yes." And just the comic timing is classic. I think Leonard Nimoy directed this, and if he was the one actually directing the scene, perfect comedic timing. I love it. Moving on from there, the one of the classics, and this movie is just rife with classics. I mean, to really narrow this down to the scenes I picked, I could just have done a 1 minute podcast where I said the whole movie, but one of the classic scenes is the nuclear vessels scene, where and a little bit of trivia about that is, which I didn't know for a long time, I found this out more recently. When they filmed this little bit that I'm mentioning, they basically essentially drove a van onto a sidewalk, put a camera up to the window, and had Walter Koenig and Nichelle Nichols, who played Chekhov and Uhura respectively, just get out and start questioning random people, real genuine random people on the sidewalk who didn't know they were being filmed, about where were the nuclear vessels. And Chekhov or Walter Koenig doing his best Russian accent as Chekhov, and of course taking into account the Iron Curtain, so to speak, hadn't dropped at that point with the USSR and everything like that. And I'm not too political and not a great memory with historical events, so I don't even know if that reference matches up 100%. But having a Russian in 1986 looking for a nuclear warship is, it's just ridiculous. And the less than helpful people, they, one woman basically says exactly what they said back to them. That they're located in Alameda, and but the best part of this scene, as the image that will accompany shows, is when they approach this motorcycle cop, and I think the motorcycle cop was an actor. I don't remember 100%, but his just stone-faced, like leering at Chekhov as Chekhov comes up and is, "Where are the nuclear vessels?" Just, oh man, it's just a laugh out loud moment, and it just compounds the humorous moments that have happened thus far in the film. But the first of the last three scenes I want to mention is another classic scene. This time it's McCoy and Scotty, who have been given the task of finding plexiglass to align the innards of the Klingon warbird that they had to usurp and use to get back to Earth, so that they could essentially fill it with water and put the whales in, beam the whales in. And it's their whole little scene when they're trying to convince the guy who owns the Plexi Corp or whatever the company's called, and they try to tantalize him with the molecular structure of transparent aluminum, which is what in Star Trek is the windows of the future, and it's just this really funny moment where Scotty sits down at the computer and he grabs the mouse and he starts to speak into the mouse, and that doesn't work, and the guy lording over him says, try the keyboard, and Scotty's really kind of in a pithy attitude, oh, how quaint, and it's just really funny. And so the second to last scene that I'm going to mention here is when finally they, this is after Jillian has gone back to the Cetacean Institute and she finds out the whales have been moved overnight without her being aware of it. And she goes to Golden Gate Park where the ship is cloaked to try to, get Kirk and crew to help her again. And so they finally chase down where the whales are. They're out in the ocean, and there conveniently is a whaling ship closing in on them. And so they decloak right over it, and which is memorable enough in itself. But my favorite part of it is the payoff, which is when Scotty actually physically beams these two whales and this massive amount of water into the cargo hold of the Klingon bird of prey, and he says, "Captain, there be whales here," and it's like a great little payoff moment in the film. You're so glad and so relieved that these whales have been saved, and that potentially their purpose, which is to hopefully save the future, you're hopeful that will happen. So that it's a standout scene for that reason. Moving on to the final scene I want to mention is kind of a two-part scene, as I did with the last scene in that I mentioned for the previous podcast for Star Trek 3. But this particular segment that I'm going to reference is what I think is really cool about it is because after they finally get back to the future, no, that's a different movie. No, once they return to the 23rd century and the whales are in tow, and they sort of crash land into the San Francisco Bay, and once the whales are freed and they start singing their whale song, and the day is saved essentially. There's this like trial segment that comes immediately following because the crew stole the Enterprise in the previous film, and they have to face the music. And I like how Spock, even though he's not counted among those being charged, he still stands with his shipmates, and the ultimate payoff that the charges are summarily dropped because taking into account that they saved the freaking Earth, and then they demote Admiral Kirk back to captain and tell him he can man a starship again. And it's just again kind of like a new version of the way the previous movie ended. The family is back together. The adventures are going to continue. We have all seven getting ready, and the big surprise shock when everyone thinks they're going to get, the Excelsior. Nope, we have a brand new Starship Enterprise, NCC 1701A, and so yeah, that's it. Just again another perfect ending to a perfect Star Trek movie, and with that, this is wrapping up part 4, and I'll be getting to work on part 5. So stay tuned. Peace.